Some people don't argue, they don't fight, they don't even say goodbye, they just disappear. One day they're there, the next, they've gone completely quiet. No explanation, no drama, just silence and a trail of unanswered messages. And the strange thing? It's not always the people you'd expect. Sometimes it's the most loyal, caring, deeply feeling person in the room. So what's actually going on inside someone who cuts everyone off? Because here's what most people get wrong about this. They assume it's coldness, cruelty, maybe even manipulation. But the truth is far more complicated and far more human than that. The people who suddenly cut everyone off, they're not always the villains of the story, and they're not always in control of what they're doing either. There are hidden psychological forces driving this behavior, and once you understand them, you'll never see it the same way again. Think about someone you know, or maybe someone you've been, who just stopped showing up. Maybe it was a friend who used to text you every day, and then one week the messages slowed down, then stopped. You reached out a few times, nothing. You replayed every conversation wondering what you did wrong. Or maybe you've been the one to do it. You looked at your phone one day, saw the notifications piling up and felt not connection, but exhaustion. And something in you just shut down. If either of those hit close to home, keep watching. Because what's actually happening in those moments is something psychology has a lot to say about. Here's the thing most people misunderstand. Cutting people off isn't always a choice made from strength. It's not always confidence. And it's rarely as simple as, I don't care about you anymore. Most of the time it's a defense mechanism, a way the mind protects itself when it doesn't know how else to cope. And here's the strange part. The very people who pull away the hardest are often the ones who feel the most deeply. They're not cold, they're overwhelmed. And when they reach their limit, the only exit they can find is silence. Some people give and give and give until there's nothing left. And when they finally empty out, they don't explode. They go quiet. It's not anger, it's depletion. They're not cutting you off because they hate you. They're cutting everyone off because they have nothing left to offer anyone. The silence is survival, not rejection. For some people, closeness feels like danger. The closer someone gets, the more there is to lose. So they build distance before anyone can get close enough to hurt them. Closing off feels safer than opening up. And when that fear gets loud enough, disappearing feels like the only logical thing to do. There are people walking around carrying wounds from relationships that went very wrong. A parent who left, a friend who betrayed them, a partner who broke their trust so completely that their nervous system learned one lesson. People leave anyway, so leave first. Cutting people off isn't cruelty in this case. It's an old scar doing what scars do, protecting the wound underneath. When life feels chaotic, when everything is uncertain and out of control, some people find the only thing they can control is who has access to them. Pulling away becomes a way to reclaim agency. It says, I choose who stays and who goes, even when that choice costs them. Psychology has a term for this. People with an avoidant attachment style learned early on that relying on others leads to disappointment. So they trained themselves not to need people, or at least to act like they don't. When a relationship gets too close, too real, too intense, they pull back. Not because they don't care, often because they care too much and don't know what to do with that. Sometimes people cut everyone off because they're trying to become someone new. Old friendships can feel like old versions of yourself, versions you're trying to escape. It's not always about the people they're leaving, it's about who they're trying to become. And sometimes that transformation feels like it can only happen in isolation. And if you could hear what's actually going on in their head, it might sound something like this. It's easier to disappear than to explain something I don't even fully understand myself. If I leave first, I can't be left. No one really gets me anyway, so why keep trying to make them? I just need space, just a little space, just a little more space. And the heartbreaking part? That last thought sometimes never ends. The space keeps growing until one day they look up and realize they've been alone for a very long time. Now, here's where it gets complicated, because sometimes cutting people off really is strength. Sometimes it's the healthiest, most necessary thing a person can do. Walking away from toxic relationships, from people who drain them, from situations that were slowly destroying them. But sometimes it's not strength at all. Sometimes it's fear wearing the mask of boundaries. Sometimes it's avoidance convincing itself it's self-preservation. And here's the truth. It's often both at the same time. A person can be protecting themselves and running from something they need to face. Those two things can exist in the same breath. But there's a cost to this. And it's one that doesn't always show up right away. The silence that felt like relief starts to feel like emptiness. The distance that felt like safety starts to feel like loneliness. And the cycle can keep repeating, getting close, pulling away, getting close, pulling away, until eventually closeness itself starts to feel impossible. There is also the quiet weight of regret, of bridges burned not out of malice but out of overwhelm, of people who genuinely cared who are now just gone. No judgment, just honesty about what this pattern, left unchecked, can cost someone over time. So, if you've ever done this, if you've ever gone quiet when you should have spoken, pulled away when someone was reaching for you, or disappeared when things got too real, this isn't about shame. It's about recognition. Because the first step out of a pattern is seeing the pattern clearly, and sometimes just naming it. I do this when I'm overwhelmed. I do this when I'm afraid. I do this when I don't know how to ask for what I need, is where everything starts to shift. Distance isn't always wrong. Sometimes you genuinely need space to heal, to breathe, to figure out who you are outside of certain relationships. That's real, and it's valid. But there's a difference between choosing solitude with intention and falling into isolation as a habit. One is something you decide. The other is something that slowly decides for you. The goal isn't to never need space. The goal is to stay aware of when the wall you built to protect yourself has quietly become a prison. Because at the end of the day, the people who cut everyone off aren't broken. They're not villains. They're usually just people who were hurt in ways they never fully healed from, and who found the only exit they knew. And understanding that doesn't mean excusing the hurt it causes. It means seeing the full picture. Cutting people off can protect you from pain, but it can also keep you from the very connection you've been searching for all along,